Thank you first off to Utah Pokemon for having us here today as we go into an exciting round 3 with Preston Clark, your defending champion, versus Heather Rysenga, who is personally one of my favorite people from Southern California. So I'm super excited.
It should be a great match. Preston off to a good start so far in defending his title, already at 2-0, and obviously Heather also doing well so far at 2-0.
This is going to be nerve-wracking for her going against, this is the guy who won last year. But Heather, one of my favorite things about her, she was very determined to get Heliolisk CP on VGC Stats, and she did so. And I'm not quite sure if she's running that team this time.
Was it like a solar power Heliolisk?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was kind of fun to watch. You're just like, oh, all right. It was actually a breakneck blitz Heliolisk on there. So that was like, oh, all right. But I'm excited to see exactly what she brings to the table, especially against Preston. Obviously not an easy competitor to take down.
Yeah, no, Preston, a really solid player, as we saw last year, taking a really offensive Rain team. Kind of reminded me of like a 2014 style Rain team. Also had a Hydreigon on it, and piloting it really well to that championship. Really curious to see what he has this year. Rain's back as a big offensive threat,
which I'm sure he's happy about because he's like, hey, I understand how to run this type of archetype. But I think our players are just getting set up, getting ready. Obviously, being at 2-0 right now, especially at a regional where you only have 7 rounds, and I think from what I know is not if they manage to go to X and 2, not all of them are gonna get CP. So right now they've just got you're at that point where you're at that nice record and you just got to keep pushing, and we're halfway through the day. Ooh.
Yeah, but you'll need maybe 5 wins to get to top cut. More than normal X2s are going to top cut, and so some of these players at 5 and 2 will make it, and you're 40% of the way there. This match gets you 60% of the way there.
And here we are on your left side. We've got Heather with that Metagross, Tapu Lele, Landorus there, and Zapdos, Gastrodon, and Incineroar, as Preston going to be using Swampert, Pelipper, Ludicolo, Ferrothorn, Landorus, Therian, and Tapu Koko.
Yeah, so we do see a Rain team from Preston over there, and
they kind of locked in the to be. I love the Swampert option. Swampert, being obviously a Hoenn starter, has a special place in my heart. But kind of cool. Haven't really seen it a lot.
Yeah, Mega immediate, very very beginning stages of this format got a lot of play. Very improved from the last time it was kind of relevant in 2015. But it's kind of dropped off since then. We've seen more return to this style of Rain with Ludicolo as the central focus. Preston's got both, though. Has the Ludicolo that he's leading with here, along with that Swampert that's likely in the back.
Yeah, and so last round we had the Heat, but this time Preston bringing the Rain with that Pelipper and Ludicolo lead, as Heather counters with a Tapu Lele and a Zapdos. Zapdos activating its Psychic Seed because of that terrain, and the Drizzle from Pelipper are going to start off our turns of Rain here on the field.
Yeah, that Psychic Seed going to boost the top Zapdos' special defense, going to make it much more likely to stay on the field here against this Ludicolo. Otherwise, that Hydro Vortex is such a big threat. Wouldn't be surprised to see dueling Tailwinds here. Pelipper is going to want to counter any Tailwind that Zapdos is going to get off, and Zapdos is going to at least want to try to get that Tailwind to get the Heather side of the field faster than that Ludicolo.
Yeah, I think it's cool too because Pelipper, not quite the premier Rain setter that I'd be thinking that a lot of people want to use, with Politoed having been so popular now. But just from the get-go, Preston going for that Water MZ, going to be getting a nice boost because of this Rain. Going to probably easily pick up a knockout from whatever Pokemon it targets down on Heather's side of the field.
I think Zapdos will be able to take it, so I expect that means it's going into Tapu Lele, going to be looking for that big one-hit KO there, and Tapu Lele didn't protect itself, so could be a really good early KO here for Preston.
All right, and I think is Tapu Lele gonna be flooded out on this turn, not gonna be able to do anything, and Heather loses it immediately on this first turn. Again, that Water MZ with that Rain was so nice, as Zapdos goes for a Tailwind on this turn, so gonna give her a little bit of speed control unless Preston also counters with that Tailwind, so just kind of a neutral Tailwind from either side.
Yeah, that's a really strong turn for Preston. Mitigates the threat of that Tailwind from Zapdos. You can't really pull Zapdos off the field quickly because of that special defense boost. You're going to have to allow that Tailwind to go up, but if you get your own Tailwind up at the same time, you're then not worried about that speed advantage, and then to get just a free KO, to be up 4-3, not really having given up anything yet, is massive.
And Gastrodon going to be hitting the field on Heather's side against the Ludicolo that sometimes carries Energy Ball. I think a little bit of a scary choice here.
Yeah, you would have liked to see that Gastrodon switch in on the previous turn, try to take that Hydro Vortex. Preston had some unfortunate interactions with that Storm Drain last year. Gonna definitely be top of mind for him, but went ahead and went for that Hydro Vortex on turn 1 anyway and got the KO. Now Gastrodon on the field, but Preston knows it's on the field, is free to just threaten those energy balls and, isn't so worried about getting water attacks off right now anyway, because Zapdos wouldn't take too much from them, especially since it's not the Z move anymore. He's probably pretty content to try to target down this Gastrodon.
All right, and so Preston going to be keeping his Pelipper in the back now as he sends out Ferrothorn onto the field. Going to be a nice counter to that Gastrodon as well. But Heather switching out her Gastrodon and going to be showing her last Pokemon, which is going to be a Landorus. Going to be getting the Intimidate into both Pokemon on Preston's side of the field. This Ludicolo and this Ferrothorn kind of okay with that. And now this Ludicolo going to be going for an Ice Beam into the slot where that Zapdos is. That special defense boost is so nice for it. Doesn't do that much damage onto here. As Zapdos rounds out this turn with a Thunderbolt into that Ludicolo slot, gets it just a little bit above half.
Yeah, you can see how bulky that Zapdos is, taking like maybe a third of its health from that Ice Beam. It's going to be not easy to get rid of Zapdos. And now Ferrothorn intimidated, also not going to be a big threat. Landorus obviously has to watch out a ton though. That Ice Beam is going to do a lot of damage to it. Water moves will do a lot of damage to it also, but are a big risk for Gastrodon coming in the back. So I would expect to see an Ice Beam come towards that Landorus slot. That does mean Gastrodon's a pretty good switch, and you're still going to take a decent chunk of damage, but not the massive amount you would obviously from an energy ball. But Preston could also try to predict call where that Gastrodon is coming in, hit it with an energy ball, which would be devastating for Heather. So really a dangerous position here. Lots of offensive pressure for Preston. Heather's got to find a way to kind of take back advantage in this game.
But Preston actually switching out that Ferrothorn for that Swampert is still going to be in the rain here, so going to be able to get some boost from that later as the Ludicolo goes for the Ice Beam into the Zapdos slot once more, gets it down to 75 health as Landorus actually goes for a U-turn into the Ludicolo slot, does enough damage to actually knock it out with that critical hit though. And Heather going to be having the option to kind of choose what Pokemon she wants to send out against. Now we know like this Ferrothorn and this Pelipper that Preston has left.
Yeah, I mean that U-turn is massive. Getting the KO, I don't think the critical hit mattered there. Kind of a risky play. If the Ice Beam had gone into Landorus instead of Zapdos, probably would have lost Landorus, but it doesn't. Preston either predicts the Gastrodon switch or the Landorus protect, goes ahead and tries to pick up more damage in Zapdos and loses Ludicolo for his efforts. It's a good start for Heather in trying to kind of take back offensive control of this game.
And Ferrothorn hitting the field as the Zapdos on Heather's side did try to use Thunderbolt, but obviously Swampert being part ground does not get affected by this. But I think Ferrothorn's still kind of in a nice position to threaten that Gastrodon with those Power Whips. Yeah,
definitely. Landorus could come back in and intimidate both these Pokemon, both physical attackers. It's a pretty good intimidate to get off. But that Power Whip's still going to do a decent chunk of damage to it.
And Zapdos going to be returning to Heather as she sends out that Landorus. So going to be losing that special defense boost from the Psychic Seed, but does get the Intimidate into both of these Pokemon. And Swampert being a very scary physical attacker, especially in the rain. So, going to want to mitigate that just a little bit as Swampert does go for the Mega Evolution on this turn. Going to be getting that immediate speed boost because of that Mega Mechanic. Just going to be able to get that Swift mobility. And it goes for an Ice Punch actually into that Landorus switch-in slot. Almost gets that knockout on there. As Gastrodon goes for the Scald into this Swampert, gonna do some good damage because of that rain. As Ferrothorn rounds out this turn with Power Whip into that Gastrodon, gonna do 4 times effective damage, easily knocking it out.
2 4-times super effective attacks coming out from Preston's side that turn. He just has the right coverage, the right offensive pressure. I mean, getting that Zapdos out from that Ice Punch is really good. You need to save the Zapdos, but Landorus is not the switch-in that kind of saves it there. Zapdos does give up that special defense boost from the Psychic Seed like you mentioned, but up here is against 2 physical attackers, not going to be missing it too much until that Pelipper hits the field again, but it may be too late by then. Swampert's going to be faster than both these Pokemon, threatening Ice Punch against both of these Pokemon. Zapdos might be able to take it after the Intimidate. It'll be close, but Landorus obviously at 5 HP, there's no way. And then Ferrothorn also easily could pick up the KO on Landorus or start working against the Zapdos, maybe getting a Leech Seed off against it.
And Swampert going to be going for Waterfall into that Zapdos slot, easily going to be knocking it out as this Landorus at 5 HP. Any sort of attack is going to knock. Oh, Landorus going first, actually going to be hitting both these Pokemon with Earthquake. But, it's a nice resistance from native Pokemon on here. Does get Swampert into the red as Ferrothorn rounds out this turn with that Power Whip. That 5 HP obviously going to knock out that Landorus, giving game 1 to Preston.
Yeah, just too much offensive pressure too quickly. Maybe if Gastrodon had switched it on that first turn and the Hydro Vortex had been wasted, Tapu Lele was still around to threaten really strong damage against Swampert. But even then, you're talking about Tapu Lele in against Ferrothorn. That's a terrible matchup for it. It doesn't have any really good way to damage that Ferrothorn and it has to be worried about Gyro Balls constantly. I think Heather's going to have some difficulty finding the right Pokemon to bring. It's hard against these offensive rain matchups, with the combination of Swampert and Ludicolo really make nothing seem that great to have with you.
I think what's hard too is, like, obviously Gastrodon is such a nice counter to rain for a lot of time, but Preston, his team, that power of having that nice kind of counter to that counter, and I think, like you had said, maybe not losing that Tapu Lele early. She could have had a little bit more offensive pressure on there. And I think now that mind game of when does he Hydro Vortex and when do I switch in this Gastrodon, and how is it too obvious, or like how do I go for this? Like Preston obviously like locking in so fast because that team worked. Like he had so much pressure against Heather.
Yeah, I do think there's not much reason for Preston to change. And same thing for Heather. There's not too much reason. Maybe Tapu Lele's something you can leave behind. Maybe Landorus is something you can leave behind. It would be great to have Metagross with you. It's another Pokemon not weak to water. That can threaten a lot of offense against these. But Gastrodon is still going to be crucial, even with those two grass types on Preston's side. Just preventing that Hydro Vortex from being so free, preventing those waterfalls from being able to just come out every turn, at least making Preston think about those rain boosted attacks is going to be crucial, even if it means you're probably going to go down to an Energy Ball or a Power Whip at some point.
Well, and I also like the fact that Landorus, like, even though it does have that 4 times weakness against that Ice Punch, that Intimidate cycling, especially against something like Swampert, could really help her out if she's able to kind of just get the momentum going on it, because it does have U-turn, so she could, protect it and switch out as like she needs to, but
it's just hard to get those U-turns off. I mean, you have both Ludicolo and Swampert outspeeding and one-hit KOing, if at least for Swampert, if it's unintimidated. Waterfall probably one-hit KOs, even intimidated, if it doesn't have to worry about that Storm Drain.
Right, and so we're going to have to see what Heather decides to do in this game, too, as we go once more Preston Clark versus Heather Rysenga. And I think Preston, you're just going to probably lead again with that rain mode here, as, Ludicolo and Pelipper once more hitting that field, bringing in that rain. And Heather this time going with the same lead as well, Tapu Lele and Zapdos. And once again, that Zapdos' Psychic Seed will be activating, going to be giving it that special defense boost.
This has got to be such a nerve-wracking turn one for both players. They saw how it went last game, that Hydro Vortex landing. Preston's got to be thinking about that Gastrodon coming in, thinking about maybe clicking that Energy Ball button and just getting rid of it immediately. Heather's got to be worried about losing one of these two Pokemon Hydro Vortex straight off, but knowing any switch of a Gastrodon is that risk of that Energy Ball. Such a dangerous first turn. That Hydro Vortex gets wasted while Tailwind goes up. If that Gastrodon or this Tapu Lele just get one-hit KO'd on the first turn, it's going to change the whole course of this game right here off the bat.
Yeah, and I think, this is the part where you're like, what do I do? Because maybe this Tapu Lele has Protect, and maybe, like, that's her option here. Burn that Water EMZ, and then, go after it later. But Tapu Lele actually does go for a Protect this turn, so we're going to see if that Water EMZ does go into that slot. As Ludicolo goes for the Energy Ball, didn't want to risk that Gastrodon switch in, and Zapdos going for the Tailwind once more on Heather's side. So almost a mirror of that last game, and Pelipper matching that Tailwind as well.
Yeah, Preston went ahead and predicted the Gastrodon switch in, so really good play for Heather there to, not gamble to either side too much. The Hydro Vortex would have been burnt into the Protect. The Energy Ball doesn't get the KO on Gastrodon, just somewhere in the middle. You see both Tailwinds go up, kind of a neutral effect there. But now Pelipper and Zapdos free to attack this turn. Neither's going to have that pressure to need to Tailwind.
Oh, and it's like stressful because now you're like, oh, do I go for that Hydro Vortex now again? Because Tapu Lele protected. And what do you switch into that spot? We know that Landorus won't take that Hydro Vortex, and that Gastrodon could definitely benefit from it. But oh gosh,
it's the switch.
Tapu Lele switching out for the Gastrodon. So now the question is,
the mind games.
See this? Oh my God, this is stressful on our side. Preston going for the Water EMZ. Oh no! And so that Storm Drain from Gastrodon is just gonna eat that up.
Yeah, calls the switch on turn 1, goes ahead and clicks Energy Ball, but doesn't call it on turn 2. Clicks that Hydro Vortex button, and it's just going to get wasted in Storm Drain, giving that Gastrodon +1 special attack.
Oh man, and so Zapdos going for the Thunderbolt into that Ludicolo spot as Pelipper goes for the Hurricane into that, Tapu Lele spot, into that Gastrodon spot. Now, does get the confusion, so a little bit of gamble for Heather now in the next couple of turns. But Gastrodon going to be restoring its health without leftovers. Oh.
Yeah, Preston hedging his bets a little bit there. If Gastrodon does come in like it did, you at least do land a Hurricane on it. Not a complete play for the Tapu Lele to stay in, but still really stings to have that Hydro Vortex completely wasted and Tapu Lele safe in the back for later in the game. That Thunderbolt onto Ludicolo, the next one's not going to KO, but that does start to add up. If you can get rid of that Ludicolo while keeping Zapdos very healthy, it's going to be really valuable.
and Ludicolo going for the Edgy Ball now into the Gastrodon, going to be doing 4 times effective damage. And we are going to, Heather will be losing that Gastrodon on this turn because that's just a lot of, damage on there. But Zapdos going for the Thunderbolt once more onto the Ludicolo. Like you said, that damage does add up, and we get the paralysis on that Ludicolo as well as Pelipper. Hurricane once more, this time obviously to the Zapdos. Going to be doing minimal damage. That special defense so nice on there. And Heather, not kind of free to bring in that Tapu Lele if she wants.
Yeah, another mind game turn. Heather goes ahead and leaves the Gastrodon on the field, and it goes down. It's going to make things a lot easier for Preston over the course of this game. It means Swampert's Waterfalls don't have to worry about it. Pelipper's Scalds or Brines don't have to worry about it. And, of course, Ludicolo is now free to use water attacks, but that paralysis, dropping Ludicolo's speed, you have those 2 counteracting tailwinds. Likely Tapu Lele is the fastest thing on the field now. That's a big change. It's going to mean that Tapu Lele can outspeed and just KO this Ludicolo at very low health. Likely that Hurricane would have also targeted at the Gastrodon slot, so that if Gastrodon did switch to something like Tapu Lele, the Energy Ball combined with Hurricane would have still picked up a KO.
Alright, and Ferrothorn being switched out for that Pelipper, so just in case this raid does expire, Pelipper can come back in and bring it back. As Tapu Lele goes for the Psychic into that slot, does just a bit of a quarter damage to that Ferrothorn, and Zapdos going for the Thunderbolt, going to pick up the knockout on that Ludicolo. Yeah,
Zapdos fast enough there to go ahead and outspeed Ludicolo after its paralysis and get the KO.
I think we might just be seeing that Swampert here now because, you know, no more Gastrodon threat on here. And so Swampert does take the field from Preston's side. Again, like that Mega Evolution and that Waterfall does so much damage.
Yeah, it's really another interesting turn here. Zapdos isn't really threatening much damage against either of these Pokemon. Tapu Lele, though, that Psychic against Swampert would really sting. Swampert probably can't get Tapu Lele off the field with 1 Waterfall. Of course, you do have the flinch chance to remove that Psychic, but Ferrothorn can definitely KO Tapu Lele with 1 Gyro Ball. So you're going to be really tempted to just leave that Tapu Lele around to let Ferrothorn KO it, but of course Ferrothorn's not going to move till the end of the turn, so that means you're allowing that Psychic. Either Swampert's protecting itself or taking that massive Psychic. So another really dangerous turn here. Lots of damage could come out on either side.
I would love to see a Psyche MZ from Heather's side, especially on like terrain, just to like guarantee that knockout from Swampert. And we will be starting the turn off with that Mega Swampert on Preston's side. Gonna be bulk enough to get some massive damage with that Waterfall in the rain. Gonna be the fastest thing on this field. As Tapu Lele goes for Protect, actually, so any sort of attack, either from that Ferrothorn with that Gyro Ball or like that Waterfall, not gonna be hitting it. As the Waterfall actually goes into the Zapdos slot, that seed not gonna be doing much for it, but oh man, holding on with that 90 HP, able to get that Tailwind on it, so gonna give us a little bit of speed control there as Ferrothorn goes for the Gyro Ball, does not manage to go against Tapu Lele for that. Ooh.
Yeah, and the rain disappears too, Psychic Terrain disappears, all of the field effects are leaving. Tapu Lele protecting itself, maybe looking for Swampert to also protect itself that turn, and dodge the Gyro Ball while managing to land the Psychic later onto that Swampert. Instead, Swampert goes for that massive Waterfall, and Zapdos just barely misses the KO and doesn't get the flinch, though, and so that Tailwind comes up as Rain expires. Now Pelipper is so valuable. It's going to need to come back on the field, get that Rain back up, hopefully get that Tailwind up to match the Zapdos' Tailwind, too, and give Preston back the speed control in this game, because all of his heavy offense relies on having that speed control, other than, of course, Ferrothorn.
Right. And Zapdos actually going to be switching out, going to be at that like 9 health as Landorus hits the field, going to be getting Intimidate into both these Pokemon. Like we saw, a really well done against that Swampert. That Ice Punch with that 4 times effectiveness, not going to be able to, didn't quite knock it out in game 1. As Ferrothorn actually going to be withdrawn for that Pelipper, going to be bringing back that Rain. And, as well as like that Hurricane ability, which we saw could manage to confuse that Gastrodon from earlier, but that Rain being the most important thing here, as Tapu Lele goes for that Psychium Z, which is off terrain now, so it won't be quite as powerful, but still nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, I would bet it's still enough to KO this Swampert right here, which would be a big swing in this game. Right as Swampert gets its Rain back, if it were to go down thanks to that Tailwind that Zapdos put up, it would be huge.
So here we go, going after that Swampert, and it was getting tossed around, and almost
it hangs on
to get that knockout. Oh, that terrain is so important as Waterfall goes into the top of the slot. Now that we're in rain, not quite enough to pick up the knockout as well. Oh my gosh.
That Intimidate's so important, saving Tapu Lele there. Unintimidated, that Waterfall would have KO'd Tapu Lele. Based on the damage that Ice Punch did previously, I would expect that Waterfall is now a KO on Landorus or Tapu Lele. So Preston, if he can get that Tailwind back up, is going to be kind of seizing offensive control again, but he's got to get that Tailwind up. Pelipper with its Focus Sash can take one thing, but if 2 attacks come out to that Pelipper slot this turn, it could be really dangerous.
and Swampert being switched out for that Ferrothorn. Going to be taking some nice damage. Going to be taking damage from Lele a lot easier as the Rock Slide from Landorus goes into both slots. Super effective on the Pelipper there. And Tapu Lele going for the Psychic into what? Oh, actually doubling up into that Pelipper slot. So preventing any sort of moves or tailwind from Preston's side of the field.
That was the play Heather needed to make sure that Pelipper didn't get the tailwind up. Goes ahead and double targets it with that Rock Slide. Of course, would have been some damage against Swampert, but even at that low health, wouldn't have been enough to KO. But then you combine the Rock Slide on the Pelipper with that Psychic, get the KO there, prevent the tailwind. Now Preston's got to be looking to stall out the last bit of this tailwind, get out to the other side of it, still have some time with Rain left. That Zapdos, remember, in the back is very unhealthy. This Ferrothorn not immediately threatened too much. It's going to be able to get maybe an attack off against this Tapu Lele. If that happens, Tailwind expires, and then Swampert is free to outspeed and KO either of these. This is definitely still in play for Preston.
All right, but Landorus going to be switched out on Heather's side in for that Zapdos, which again is at very low health, at 9 HP left on here. And Tailwind going to be expired this turn as well. But Tapu Lele going for the Psychic into that Swampert slot, going to be picking up that knockout now. It's just going to be the Ferrothorn versus Heather's team. But if this Gyro Ball, will be knocking out this Tapu Lele, and now it's just going to be this Landorus and this really unhealthy Zapdos versus this Ferrothorn.
Yeah, I wonder if Swampert doesn't have Protect, or if Preston was making the prediction there that Psychic was going to go in the other spot, because otherwise that's a very good turn to just protect Swampert, get to the other side. That Tailwind where the Swift Swim's going to make sure Swampert's the fastest thing on the field. Instead, it gets outsped and KO'd on the last turn of Tailwind with Psychic. And now it's just Ferrothorn versus these two Pokemon. Maybe Leech Seed keeps this game in play, but those two intimidates us so much.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of rough because now you're trying to figure out all this damage output on that Landorus. I mean, obviously the Zapdos is very low health, but Superpower from Landorus goes into that Ferrothorn, picks up the knockout, and obviously the Iron Barb's going to be doing a little bit of damage, but it is Heather's game 2, and we are going to be going to a game 3. She adjusted so well in that, and I think she did a very good job of going from that game 1 to this game 2 matchup.
Yeah, there were, I think, two very crucial moments in that game 2. That Storm Drain absorbing Hydro Vortex, so important. That Tapu Lele, you saw how much damage it put out. All that damage was unavailable in game 1 because the Tapu Lele went down in turn 1. And then the second crucial moment was when that Rain expired at the same time as Tailwind went up, and Pelipper was nowhere to be seen, no chance to counter that Tailwind. Eventually, when it hit the field, it was easily double targeted for the KO, and it was that loss of speed control that really did it in for Preston.
And I think the hardest part about this game 3, though, is going to be once more, when is that Hydro Vortex going to happen? And
so many turns of Mind Games, because even once the Hydro Vortex was wasted, we immediately saw another turn of Mind Games where that Energy Ball landed into Gastrodon. Ever since Black and White, when we've seen all these dynamics of that Storm Drain, Gastrodon, this when Storm Drain kind of changed its mechanic to be able to do this absorbing, versus this Ludicolo. It's been a back and forth, always a mind game, always so nerve-wracking.
We're over here, kind of stressing out about it. I can only imagine what they're feeling right now. And I think especially, too, that Zapdos with that special defense boost, managing to get those Tailwinds, like you had said, was really crucial, too. And I think Preston going to have to think about, how can I either stop that or make sure my Pelipper can get that Tailwind to match later on. And so the mind game's going to be happening a lot more here in this game 3, this final match between Preston and Heather. I'm expecting to see actually the same 4 Pokemon from them. No reason to change up anything, I don't think. Yeah,
I think that Landorus showed its value even with all the weakness against Rain. Getting the Intimidate that saved that Tapu Lele at that one moment was so valuable.
And Tapu Lele and Zapdos on Heather's side of the field versus that Ludicolo and Pelipper. So once more, the same leads for this game 3. And once again, that special defense boost on Zapdos because of Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain going up on this turn. As Pelipper are going to be bringing that Rain in for this match.
So what we've seen so far, games 1 and 2, we've seen these counter Tailwinds on the first turn. I would be interested to see if either player thinks they can sacrifice the Tailwind for damage here on this first turn, let the other player have it. For Preston, it's a much bigger loss, giving up the Swift Swim speed advantage. But maybe for Heather, it's a smaller loss. Ludicolo is already the fastest thing on the field. Swampert also going to be faster than everything. Maybe if you can get some really crucial Thunderbolt off here, get Pelipper down to 1 HP so you don't have to worry about Tailwind and Rain later in the game. That could be really valuable. But, of course, that is letting Pelipper then be faster than things like Tapu Lele and Zapdos.
Heather actually going for a switch on the Zapdos. Going to be losing that Psychic Seed boost, but does go for the Gastrodon here. And Gastrodon surrounds itself with Psychic Rain, so not going to get faked out by this Ludicolo as Heather goes for this Psychium Z going, I think, after that Ludicolo.
I think, absolutely. I think this was a really great way, found another way to play this Storm Drain that was really clever. If the Energy Ball goes into Tapu Lele, still gets the Shattered Psyche off. If the Hydro Vortex comes off, out, you still get the Shattered Psyche off because the Gastrodon would absorb it. So you're kind of guaranteeing yourself that Shattered Psyche and taking the Ludicolo KO, flipping the script from game one, getting the Z-move KO instead on the first turn.
Yeah, and the Pelipper rounds out this turn with Tailwind, and, like you had mentioned, she'd chosen to sacrifice matching that Tailwind to just kind of cover her bases on there. That switch to make sure that fake out didn't happen for that Ludicolo allowed her to get that knockout. Oh my gosh, that's a nice change for turn one, but also really, scary kind of change as Swampert hits the field for Preston's side.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if giving up that Tailwind was acceptable to KO that Ludicolo. I think it absolutely was. It's such a big KO to not have to worry about one of those two Swift Swim attackers, but it does mean that Pelipper is going to be faster than Tapu Lele. Could come into play here if you're looking at things like last game. The Swampert was unable to KO Tapu Lele because Landorus came in and intimidated it. Now that can be a double target of both Hurricane and Waterfall that just KOs the Tapu Lele.
And Swampert going for that Mega Evolution. Again, that Swift Swim ability going to be making it the fastest thing on the field. But even with Tailwind up, it's just going to affect that Pelipper speed tier here. And Swampert actually, Tapu Lele going for Protect here. So any damage from the potential, anything actually. Oh, Earthquake from that Swampert. Only going to be hitting that Gastrodon. But again, just not that much damage onto it. And that Lele protecting itself, just mitigating any sort of damage. And Gastrodon going to be able to take this Hurricane from a Pelipper as it doubles up into that slot. Going to be down into the 30, but does get the Confusion. So we'll see if it's going to be able to attack this turn. And as Gastrodon goes for the Scald, manages to get past that Confusion, goes into the Swampert slot. And going to be
gets the burn this time.
That's going to be really rough as it heals itself at the end of this turn with leftovers. Oh.
Yeah, there was a crucial moment in game one where that Scald came out and didn't burn Swampert. Might have flipped the end of game one if that Scald had burned. And now we see it in game three. It's going to make things a lot more difficult for Preston here. It means that if Swampert ends up intimidated, Tapu Lele is going to be much less worried about that offense coming out from Swampert. Already half the Intimidate could drop it further. Does get the smart double target last turn, though, predicting that Tapu Lele protect, landing both the Earthquake and Hurricane to Gastrodon, dropping all of that HP down, making Gastrodon much more manageable. But it doesn't matter if you don't actually have any Rain Sweepers left by the time you get rid of Gastrodon.
Yeah, especially too, the fact that Bird's gonna hurt him so much because Swampert, is your biggest attacker on here. So really, that 10% chance, I think, for that Bird, really, really crucial here. As Swampert goes for that Ice Punch into Tapu Lele slot, does almost no damage on there, and Hurricane from Pelipper doubling up into that Tapu Lele spot. Gonna do a little bit more damage. Does get into 31, into the range of 31, but the Psychic going into that Pelipper slot can be activating that
so much damage.
Oh man, that Psychic Terrain Lele is scary. And Gastrodon once more still confused, manages to get the Scald once more, double targeting down that Pelipper, going to be knocking it out because of that 1 HP left.
Yeah, and making sure that Rain doesn't come back into this game, going to expire soon, and then that'll be it. Gastrodon going to be working without Rain. Burnt, those waterfalls are so much less of a threat.
Yeah, the Swampert going to be down at half health now because of that burn, and again, its attack being just so hurt by that. And, I think Preston's kind of between that rock and a hard place, but Ferrothorn being that last one once more, we know it can threaten a lot of damage to that Tapu Lele and to that Gastrodon.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one Pokemon you want to have as your last with a Rain team, it is that Ferrothorn. It's one of the Pokemon in the format that has the most ability to do that kind of 1v4 comeback. And this is maybe in play. If it does have that Leech Seed, and get it onto Landorus and stay healthy enough to not go down to that first superpower, start dropping Landorus' attack, healing Ferrothorn back up. But you've got to make sure that Landorus is stuck on the field, so you have to get KOs first.
And Heather going to try to prevent that as she protects her Tapu Lele, and Swampert going for an Ice Punch into that Gastrodon slot. It does get the freeze, but not enough to still knock it out. Oh man, this is just a game of RNG right now. Gastrodon is being confused, but the Scald melts the ice because that is one of the sub effects of it. Managed to go into the Swampert slot, not enough to knock it out, but that burn should be enough to pick it up as the Gyro Ball goes into that protected slot. Oh,
we're seeing all the utility of Scald here. It's getting the burn, it's getting the burn damage that then KOs the Swampert here. It's thawing that Gastrodon out. Scald's such a good move.
Yeah, especially because that chance for that freeze too, but being yeah, it's okay, I'll just click Scald, and yeah, maybe I'm confused, but we're still gonna go for it anyway. Oh, and this Ferrothorn is just up against the world. I mean.
Yeah, and so just forfeited there.
I don't think there's much that Preston could have done, and that's kind of a hard kind of thing to come back from, especially that mind game with that Hydro Vortex. He wasn't able to do it,
and I think Heather just in the second game we just saw the more kind of a 1v1 mind game matchup, looking at just the Tapu Lele slot, just the Ludicolo slot, that's almost like a coin flip. I think Heather found a really good way in Game 3 to make it much less of a coin flip by playing with both Pokemon on the field, getting that Storm Drain out, giving up the tailwind, but making sure that Shadow Psyche was going to get off, and that was the moment of the game. Once that Ludicolo went down, Swampert was forced onto the field sooner, forced to do all of it itself, had to take a Scald, and that one Scald was too much.
Yeah, and it's hard because, when you have that Swampert, you rely so much on that waterfall damage, and I was just, oh my gosh, that was a good match, and really well done for both players. But I think, are we taking a lunch break for this round? All right, so we will see you after the lunch break for round 4. So go get yourself some food, because I think that's what we're going to do. But thank you guys for joining us.